A title: Neglect and Pressure Ulcers. A disclaimer: the opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the U.S. Department of Justice. This project was supported by the U.S. Department of Justice's Elder Justice Initiative and the Office on Violence Against Women. Portions of this program are protected by copyright. If you would like to copy, display in a public setting, adapt, or distribute this program, please contact elder.justice@usdoj.gov. Paige Ulrey, Senior Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, Seattle, Washington.
We know a lot about what the proper care is for pressure sores, and we know a lot about what causes them. What we don't know about is how long it takes for them to develop. So that creates a lot of issues for a jury who is struggling to understand what to do about these cases. Another issue that we experience in these neglect cases is that not only do professionals and healthcare providers and first responders have trouble thinking of them as criminal, but juries do too. So part of the problem we experience in prosecuting these cases is that juries feel like this isn't like a stabbing or a shooting or a typical homicide. So they have the perception oftentimes that neglect is somehow a more benign type of homicide than a stabbing or a shooting case, and it makes it more difficult for us to get convictions in those cases because of that.
Dr. Veronica Lofaso, Director of Geriatric Medical Education, New York Presbyterian Hospital / Weill Cornell Medical Center.
The issue with pressure sores is a very difficult issue. Pressure sores, unfortunately, can develop in older adults even with good care. In fact, that study was done in part by Dr. Mosqueda, who is an expert in the field of geriatrics and in elder abuse. So older adults in nursing homes, we know, even when they are given very good care, they're turned, they're washed carefully, their hygiene is kept up, can still develop pressure ulcers. However, there are certain patterns of pressure ulcers that we find somewhat suspicious for neglect. For instance, if an older adult comes into my office who has, for instance, end-stage dementia and is not eating and is not able to move for themselves, it is not uncommon for me to see perhaps one ulcer in the sacral area that is clean, has been cared for, has been looked at by a nurse, looked at by a doctor, etc. But if I see a patient who has multiple pressure ulcers in areas that should theoretically be easy to protect, for instance, the inner part of the knees in a hospitalized patient can be very easily protected by simply putting a pillow between the knees. That's a pretty basic nursing intervention. If I see people who are coming in with pressure ulcers on multiple sides of their bodies in areas where you would not normally expect, for instance, areas of pressure, elbows, the tops of the hips, the heels of the feet, those are common areas that you might see them. But if there are multiple, if they're large, if they're poorly cared for, i.e. having a lot of pus or other exudates from them, then I start to worry that something is going on. Older adults who have end-stage diseases that might put them at risk for pressure ulcers should be seen by the medical profession or the nursing profession on a very regular basis. And when I see that that has not been done, then I start to worry that this is more than just end-stage aging, but more related to neglect.
That's something that we should expect to see in someone that's dying. Pressure sores, are pressure sores a natural part of the dying process, or is that not the case?
Well, it's a difficult question. If someone has end-stage dementia and has been in contact with their primary care physician, and the family or caregiver has made every effort to provide nutrition, the person isn't eating, to provide hydration, they're unable to drink, to move them in bed, the person, despite that, has so little body fat that even the smallest movement can cause an ulcer to occur. Those situations can occur. But again, this is not something that we should be seeing if a small ulcer or single ulcer is something that perhaps we would see. But again, multiple ulcers where they are not well attended to, should not be something that we are seeing, and it is not a part of normal aging.
Logos appear. NCAL, www.ncall.us. Terra Nova Films, terranova.org. Funded by the U.S. Department of Justice Elder Abuse Initiative and the Office on Violence Against Women, www.justice.gov/elderjustice.